Hello, you magnificent viewers and casual eavesdroppers. Tonight, we embark on an extraordinary journey into the world of high-stakes deception and audacious ambition. Imagine a man with a simple goal to print $250 million in fake US currency. But this isn't just a story of crime. It's a masterclass in meticulous planning, international intrigue, and a life that unfolds like a suspenseful thriller novel. Join me as we unravel the gripping saga of how one man nearly became a quarter-billionaire, got busted, and then, against all odds, slipped through the cracks with little more than a slap on the wrist. Buckle up for a tale of twists, turns, and a quest for fortune that will keep you on the edge of your seat. But hey, let's not keep all this fascinating knowledge to ourselves. Join our community of curious minds by subscribing right away. When you do, drop us a comment saying, "I subscribe," to let us know you're on board. Together, let's embark on an exciting journey to uncover hidden secrets and untold tales on Becker's casual history. Frank Bourasa harbored an ambitious goal: to produce $250 million in counterfeit US currency. Born in Trois-Rivières, a suburb of Montreal, Frank Bourasa's journey into a life of crime commenced at the age of 12 in 7th grade. Observing older students bringing in stolen, high-end clothing, he seized an opportunity to act as a middleman, peddling the pilfered goods to his classmates. Despite the illegality and violation of school rules, what mattered to him was a reliable supply of goods and customers, enabling him to pocket hundreds of dollars weekly. Independence became crucial when, at 15, Frank faced expulsion from school and left his parents' home. Initially seeking legitimate employment as a mechanic, he once again found himself entangled in illegal activities. Progressing from selling stolen car parts to entire stolen vehicles, Frank continued his illicit ventures into his 20s, at which point he resolved to turn his life around. Given his automotive background, Frank decided to establish his own factory manufacturing brake pads. While the business was profitable, it took a severe toll on him personally. Working 20-hour days, the constant stress led to a nervous breakdown, forcing him to sell the factory for the sake of his health. With the proceeds, he embarked on a 2-year global journey with his girlfriend. Returning to Canada, Frank pledged to avoid legitimate means of earning money. Convinced that the personal cost outweighed the benefits, he turned to the lucrative marijuana trade thriving in Canada at the time. It offered an easier route to financial gain without the grueling hours. However, the illegal activities eventually caught up with him, leading to Frank's arrest in 2006 on drug charges and a subsequent 3-month prison sentence. Upon release, he faced the challenge of generating income again. Despite his connections in the criminal world, Frank found the illicit ventures increasingly unrewarding. Cocaine deals involving armed guards and modest returns didn't seem worthwhile. In the year 2008, while sitting at a red light, Frank had an epiphany. Why endure the complexities of finding, selling, and accounting for illegal products when he could print his own money? Tired of the hassle, Frank, with a love for money but a disdain for complications, settled on the seemingly obvious solution: he would just print his own cash. Now Frank had a plan, but there was a problem. He didn't know anything about counterfeiting money or printing. Luckily, he had a secret weapon. Frank wasn't going to counterfeit Canadian currency. He planned to print American $20 bills. According to him, American bills were the easiest because they were still on paper and widely accepted worldwide, making them easier to produce and move. However, the challenge remained. Frank lacked counterfeiting know-how. To fix this, he visited official US government websites, hopping between internet cafes to avoid suspicion. Frank gathered detailed information, including the recipe for American banknotes, 75% cotton, 25% linen, security features, and the specific printing press used by the US Treasury. All he needed now was someone to manufacture the perfect paper. This was crucial because the feel of the paper is the top giveaway for counterfeit bills. If it didn't match the exact 75/25 split, those handling the fake money would spot it instantly. Here, Frank encountered his first real problem: finding someone to make the paper for him. Initially, Frank used the alias Thomas Moore, posing as a representative from a fake stationery company called The Letter Shop. Moore, in emails, sought special paper for a client, describing it as rag paper made of cotton and possibly with some linen. However, this approach failed since the recipe for America's paper currency isn't a secret. Since 1879, Massachusetts-based paper company Crane & Co. has been the sole producer of US government currency paper. Frank's inquiries for paper manufacturers met suspicion. Yet, undeterred, he refined his strategy, adopting the fake name Jackson Maxwell from the Keystone Investment and Trading Company. In January 2009, he found a willing partner, the Atoll Paper Company in Switzerland. Over numerous emails, Frank adjusted the specifications. While Atoll agreed, they lacked the necessary equipment. Thus, Frank had to order a $15,000 cylindrical printing drum from Germany to fulfill his order. Surprisingly, this part of the plan was relatively smooth. Unlike an American company that would raise suspicion with an Andrew Jackson watermark, Europeans didn't immediately recognize the face on the US currency, making the process less risky. That fall, Frank finally received sample sheets of the paper, and he deemed it absolutely perfect. It was completely indistinguishable from regular currency. All that remained was to place his order. Frank ordered $50,000 worth of the paper, the smallest order that Atoll would fulfill. After some quick calculations, he realized that this was enough to print $250 million in $20 bills. Selling them for 30 cents on the dollar could earn him a quick $80 million, allowing him to retire. While negotiating with the paper company, Frank also needed to secure his printing press. Fortunately, an acquaintance with flexible morals who had experience in a professional printing company and a history of prison time proved helpful. They settled on a Heidelberg offset printer, not identical to those used by the US Mint, to avoid suspicion, but close enough. Frank also purchased a paper cutter, plate-making equipment, and inkjet printers for serial numbers. The entire venture cost him $300,000, funded by his continued illegal drug sales. With everything purchased, all that was left was to wait for the paper to arrive so Frank could begin printing his counterfeit bills, assuming he didn't get arrested at the docks. Towards the end of 2009, the call came in that Frank's shipment had arrived and he could pick it up. However, he knew it wasn't safe to just go and pick it up. Instead, he used binoculars, spending 3 days surveilling the shipment for signs of activity. Frank believed his order would raise suspicions, so he thought authorities might be waiting. After 3 days of watching, there was no sign of trouble. Time to move the shipment. Frank used a box truck and hired a second car to drive behind it. Near the highway on-ramp where traffic bottlenecked, the second car pretended to break down, blocking traffic. This gave the truck a 20-minute head start to escape potential followers, but it still wasn't time to bring the paper to its final destination. The truck was parked in a lot, under 24-hour surveillance for 3 days. Throughout, Frank kept hiring new accomplices, never using the same person twice. By consistently bringing in new people, it reduced the chance anyone could figure out his plan. If caught, these accomplices wouldn't have useful information. After 3 uneventful days, it was time to move the paper again. Frank had another box truck, and the paper was loaded onto new pallets in case of tracking devices. He then took it to a garage he rented from a farmer, where the printing press was located. The farmer had no idea what was going on, though Frank suspected he knew something illegal was happening, but chose not to ask questions. With everything set up, Frank began printing his counterfeit money, working long days for the next 5 months, tucking his girlfriend into bed every night, going to the garage to print money, and returning to bring her breakfast before heading back to work. Although the days were long, it felt worth it. As the bills rolled off the press, Frank realized he was rich, but he didn't immediately try to move the money. Before selling any, he aimed to finish printing all $250 million. During those 5 months, no money came in, but he was determined to print it all. After completion, an old criminal friend helped Frank find customers. Surprisingly, it proved challenging. Big-time drug dealers, whom Frank considered involved in more severe crimes, declined his offer, advising him to be careful. Perplexed, Frank persevered, eventually finding 4 buyers who seemed ideal as they were importers, exporters, planning to sell the money overseas. This reduced the risk of the source being traced back to Canada if the counterfeits were detected in Asia, Europe, or Africa. However, the buyers were cautious and initially placed small orders of $10,000. Frank was frustrated, but as they saw the quality, they increased orders to $100,000 and eventually to $1 million. It was a good start, but Frank needed more customers to move all the cash at a faster rate. Frank got in touch with Eric Lefebvre, a local man dealing in stolen heavy equipment, who, unknowingly to Lefebvre, had been selling stolen dump trucks to an undercover cop for 2 years. When Lefebvre proposed selling counterfeit money to the cop, the officer eagerly agreed, ordering $100,000 in fake bills that Frank personally delivered. Impressed with the quality, the cop wanted another $100,000 the next day, and Frank complied. However, this time, Frank was less confident. Unbeknownst to him, a helicopter had followed Lefebvre to a mutual friend's house for the exchange. As the undercover cop had only interacted with Lefebvre, not Frank, the police still didn't know who they were pursuing. Typically, Frank would have parked in the driveway and taken the cash box into Lefebvre's house. However, that day, something felt off. The helicopter was flying too high to be seen or heard. As a precaution, Frank backed his car into the garage, ensuring surveillance had no eyes on him and the money, a decision that would prove crucial later on. At 5:00 a.m. on May 23, 2012, the police woke up Frank and his girlfriend by pounding on their door, demanding entry. His girlfriend, unaware of Frank's activities beyond smoking weed, was caught off guard. Instructing his girlfriend to remain silent, Frank allowed the police inside. Immediately handcuffed, the police searched the house, finding guns, pens for testing counterfeit bills, marijuana, and crucially, just under $1 million in counterfeit $20 bills, along with plates used in the printing process. To the dozen Canadian police officers and 2 U.S. Secret Service agents present, it seemed like they had caught Frank red-handed with a substantial amount of counterfeit money, making them confident in his guilt. During questioning, Frank initially remained silent. However, when the police mentioned his girlfriend's arrest and the potential seizure of their home, he confessed to everything they already knew. Frank, concerned for his girlfriend, took a calculated risk, expressing that facing 6 or 7 years was manageable, considering the Canadian legal system, where 1/6 of the sentence is served, potentially translating to 12 to 15 months. Yet, in the United States, however, at the age of 42, facing a potential 60-year sentence, Frank felt a 60-year term would be a death sentence. Disheartened, he sought a realistic estimate from agents, who mentioned a Canadian case with a 9-year sentence, ending in the person's death in jail. Wow, that outcome really sucked. Naturally, he needed a skilled attorney and a solid strategy to have the case dismissed, and fortunately, he found both. How in God's name did he manage that, you may ask? Well, the lawyer argued the police surveillance of Lefebvre didn't show Frank carrying or handing over the money, making the executed search warrant unlawful. Though not a guaranteed defense, it provided grounds to file a motion to dismiss the entire case, and there was a possibility the judge might grant it. Before filing, Frank negotiated with the prosecution through his lawyer. If the Crown halted extradition proceedings, Frank's attorney wouldn't file the dismissal motion. The United States wasn't pleased, but the prosecution didn't want to risk their entire case crumbling. Even though Frank might be sacrificing his only chance to avoid conviction, he took the gamble. In Canada, avoiding the risk of dying in a US federal prison seemed worthwhile. A deal was struck, and after spending just 6 weeks in jail, Frank's lawyer secured his release on a $10,000 bail. Engaging in honest construction work, Frank, now cautious and paranoid, believed he was under constant surveillance, avoiding discussions about the money or the counterfeiting operation and steering clear of Farmer's garage, where it all transpired. Frank engaged in legal negotiations and strategic moves to minimize his sentence for counterfeiting. In the face of a potential 3-year prison sentence, Frank adeptly negotiated a deal. This agreement involved surrendering the counterfeit money and the printing press, resulting in a substantial reduction of his sentence to the 6 weeks already served. However, this negotiation was not without its risks and complexities. On January 31, 2014, Frank visited the local RCMP station, where he cooperated with law enforcement by revealing the concealed location of the counterfeit money and the printing press. This cooperative act officially cleared him from prosecution in both Canadian and American jurisdictions. Although the RCMP dropped their investigation into Frank, suspicions lingered about a broader counterfeiting ring, despite Frank's insistence that he acted alone. Following this, Frank transitioned away from a life of crime and embraced legal endeavors. He became a private consultant, leveraging his expertise to assist governments and businesses in countering counterfeiting. Where have we heard that story before? If you found this narrative intriguing, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. A playlist with more captivating videos awaits you. See you in the next one, and thank you for watching.